Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Crash Bandicoot Cancelled, where we take a look at the games in Crash's history that never got to see the light of day, that were at some point or another in development, but were ultimately cancelled. We'll be looking at the concepts behind these games, background into their development, and why they ended up being cancelled. Today, we're going to take a look at Traveller's Tales' initial concept for the 5th mainline series Crash game. So, as we know it today, Crash Twinsanity was the 5th installment in the mainline series of Crash Bandicoot platformers. However, the initial concept that ended up becoming Twinsanity was originally very different from what we ended up with. Once development of the Wrath of Cortex concluded, Traveller's Tales founded a subdivision of the company titled Traveller's Tales Oxford with the sole purpose of creating Crash Bandicoot games. After a racing project was shifted from their team to Vicarious Visions by publishers Vivendi Universal, they began development on the next main series title with the intent of it being a very different experience to previous Crash Bandicoot games. The original version of the game was titled Crash Bandicoot Evolution and was a much more ambitious Crash project to what had come before. It would have focused on a larger, more open sci-fi-esque setting and was planned to feature certain RPG-based elements. The game's tone would have taken a different route as well, with a darker, more grim style and atmosphere. The story would have seen the evil twins and their army of ants invading Earth, stealing resources and pieces of the planet to form their own world. Crash would have to visit other worlds and planets that the evil twins were invading and would have to team up with Dr. Neo Cortex to help stop them. The gameplay was intended to be more open-ended, where Crash would have to explore each world, talking to its inhabitants and completing tasks for them to gain their trust and to ultimately save them from invasion. Another planned gameplay element was a companion for Crash called Foofy, a snake-like creature that would rest on Crash's body and was thought to have been used for multiple purposes. These included being used as a weapon, a shield, and even a way to grapple up platforms and swing over gaps. Some of the worlds the game would have included would have featured the Hanging City, a luscious city of towers suspended in the sky by balloons in which the witch inhabitants lived, while down below there would have been the dark, cloudy, and grimy slums, which would have been populated by turtle miners who Crash would have to work with to defeat the evil twins. Another planned world was called Gaudi, where the caves were rich with Wumpa Fruit deposits and the outside atmosphere was toxic, meaning that Crash would have to navigate this world through botanical greenhouses. It would have been populated by tribesmen who Crash would have to gain the trust of and work with to stop the twins from stealing their Wumpa Fruit supplies. The game was set to feature not only plenty of existing Crash villains, but also a slew of new characters and enemies that Crash would come across as he explored the multiple worlds. It seemed like this would have been a big step into a more expansive and experimental phase for Crash platformers that would have been unlike anything we would have seen from the franchise before. So, why was it cancelled? Well, this is an interesting one. As opposed to most cases of cancelled games in this franchise that were often at the hands of publishers, the choice to cancel Crash Bandicoot Evolution was one made by Traveller's Tales Oxford themselves. They had worked on Evolution up until 2003, however, it was the release of another game that convinced them to change course. This being Ratchet & Clank, that had released in October-November time of 2002. The team at Traveller's Tales Oxford, after seeing it, felt that Evolution was too similar in concept, both tonally and in terms of story, as developer Paul Gardner describes. Evolution began with Crash's island being stolen from the Earth by the evil twins and used as a jigsaw piece in one giant planet made from pieces of others. But when Ratchet & Clank was released, Insomniac had the same idea. Their planets looked identical to ours, so we decided to start over. From this point onwards, they then adapted their concept into what would eventually become Crash Twinsanity, hence why they share a lot of similarities. Though they still brought their ambitious mindset with them, yet with even less development time, perhaps explaining why Twinsanity turned out very rushed. Though it really is fascinating to think of how different the game could have been, and it is one of the most interesting cancelled Crash games out there. Thankfully, in 2005, the lead designer for the project, Richard M. Albin, released several pieces of concept art and behind the scenes information of the project that I'll link down below. But that is all for today. I hope you all learned something new here. All information is from crashmania.net. Head over there to find out more. Like and subscribe to stay up to date with more content, and be on the lookout for more of these cancelled game videos. Thank you all so much for watching, everyone. Take care.